Supreme.
I remember days they used to laugh at me. Used to show them on my record something casually. Used to say it was a passion on my path to be. Then they told me that I couldn't, so I had to be. Tell me what they really think about it now. Used to hate it, but I guarantee they're proud. Had to do it just to show them that I could, yeah. Now I finally think I took it where I should, yeah. Had jokes on you and now you're on and laughing. I did a whole lot of winning. Look, it came from a passion. I see a whole lot of no ones I could see out in public, and that may think a lot of things, man. At least think something. Now you the judge. Hey, now tell me where you ended up. Yeah. Look, I bet it was a simple job. Yeah. Look, I went and took a different route. Yeah. Look, that's why my life is different now. Packing my feelings. Look, when I wasn't so gifted and I was learning to do this, and all I heard were the critics, and now I'm playing for that shit. Look, I was way out the basis, but I just needed some talent so I could wait this to greatness. Oh yeah, you ain't never think this, no, no, no. Stop me while I started, homie. Whoa, whoa. Now this shit settled, it's go better and better. But I'll always remember, yeah, yeah.
Nate the Grave, what's happening? Also, aka Vegas Nate. What's happening, bro?
What's going on, man?
Hey, move that mic a little closer to you just to make sure we can hear you.
Yeah.
So welcome in. We hung out in San Diego all this week at an event, Secret Knock. Shout out to Greg Reed. A good time. What'd you think of the event?
Oh, amazing event. Great people, great energy. Just truly, probably one of the best events I've ever been to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's always my favorite. And I'll tell you what, if you go back to it each year, they make you feel like family. That's the part about it I love. You see the same, like, there's new people that come in, but you see a lot of the same people, and everybody's just like hugging you, and it's a good time. But
yeah, I think I'm making them all for the future for sure.
Yeah. Well, did you make some good connections?
Yeah, tons. Yeah.
Awesome.
Everyone's been great.
Awesome. And you live in Vegas, right?
I do. Yeah, I live on the Strip.
How long have you been in Vegas?
I've been in Vegas for 7 years, but I'm originally from Philadelphia.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Philly, baby. Yeah. All right. So let's get right into it, man. You're known as a J6er. Would you label yourself as that? Like,
yeah. I mean, that's the label that's sort of stuck. You know, we kind of started calling ourselves that in the media, and then that just sort of stuck and became mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a community now, isn't it?
It is. It is. You know, we actually built quite a family around the J6 movement, so to speak. You know, because it really was a movement.
Yeah. Yeah. When you think about this, like, I'm sure there's people that aren't happy with you, right? You get people that are like, you know, when you talk politics, you always got two sides. Well, actually, there's probably three sides, and then there's a lot of hate in it. You know, there's a lot of hate cultivated in this whole division thing, right? Have you gotten a lot of like hate thrown towards you, and how do you handle that?
Well, I'm either a terrorist or a patriot, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
You know, so when you're called such extreme names on both sides, you sort of just stop taking it very seriously.
Yeah.
So the term terrorist, or whatever you want to call us, like from the left, it just starts to lose its meaning after a while.
Yeah.
You know, it's just overused.
Well, when you think about it, though, there's a mission behind it for you, right?
Yeah.
There's something that drives people that take up a cause, and we'll talk about how you got there in the first place and all that. But like, what is your mission behind everything you're doing now? Obviously, you have a business we'll talk about in a minute. But like, what's driving you to really support this mission of the MAGA movement? Like, what's behind that for you?
It's just a deep love for the country, and and common sense. And I feel like we're losing a lot of the common sense that really drives what this country was founded on.
Yeah.
You know, I think our forefathers would roll around in their graves if they knew what was happening right now. So, you know, I just I feel like we need to restore common sense, and we were going down a fork in the road, so to speak.
Yeah. When did you start really getting fired up about this?
Really, I think once Trump sort of entered politics, I started to pay more attention.
Yeah.
And I think a lot
when
of
he came down the escalator.
Yeah.
Is that when you really kind of he started to say he was going to run? And
yeah, you know, and because I think Trump brought a lot of issues to light that people weren't talking about, and so it just piqued my curiosity, and I think a lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, you know, it's just been more and more passionate.
Yeah, when you shine a light on corruption and things that are so bureaucratic and stuck, but then there's people making a lot of money, but people like the common everyday folks don't know how they're making their money, and then light starts to shine on it. they get really fired up about that. Obviously, somebody's going to take their money from them.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what they're really good at. And by the way, I watch politics because it's like entertainment to me, but I don't get in the divisive thing. Like I can talk to anybody. I love people. I hug people. I don't have to agree with them. But when that stuff starts to get exposed, what I think both sides are really good at, but the left is really good at programming people and putting messages out there and repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And then like a lot of the people that don't think for themselves or have agency to think for themselves just pick up these theories and then they run with them. And then before you know it, there's no common sense like you mentioned. Right? You notice that?
The left has no policies. They have no platform. They have no real leader, except for maybe Jasmine Crockett, which they should probably replace if they want to start winning elections. And so all they have is hate. And their campaign is fueled on hatred and emotions. Yeah. And fortunately, if you're weak-minded enough, those emotions will drive you. And emotions are a motivator. Yeah. And so people that don't think for themselves, they just get told how to feel and how to think.
Yeah, that's it.
And then unfortunately, you get the division that's being created. But I'm like you, I can talk to anybody. But unfortunately, the left has now resorted to the damaging personal property of the people that they don't agree with.
Yeah, well, you know, I think there's people on both sides that don't think for themselves. Do you notice that too?
Yes,
like, I think there's some
course.
MAGA people and they make the people that are supporting the MAGA movement and Trump, they make them look bad, and then they get lumped into all things. Now, we got to be also careful with not lumping all of the Democrats into one pile as well, because I don't think that's good either, right? I think there's a fringe that speaks the loudest.
There's got to be some good in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's. I think that there's Democrats and Republicans too, right? That have good hearts and they mean well, but there's also evil on both sides. There's evil, and you know, how do you differentiate that? Like, because you can get swept up in the label of being whatever you are, and then that's it, and that's it. No matter what, I'm not gonna think about for myself anymore. How do you keep thinking for yourself and keep your own agency?
You just got to do your own research. You know, you just have to actually do your homework. You know, and look at the facts, look at the numbers. I'm a very logical person. I'm very, very numbers based. So facts, figures, statistics, those are the things that mean a lot to me. And you can't argue with numbers.
Yeah. Well, but the source is what's got to be credible, right? Because if you look at the wrong thing, like if you talk about medical studies, who's funding the medical study, for example? Right. So that's the thing that people need to be careful of, is not just, if you do your own research, what you're looking at, but who funded it, what was behind it. And that's the thing that like gets me sometimes, is like, I just want to keep an open mind and not be stuck in any one position, because there's something that I could read over here that might contradict a study that's a really popular, validated, quote unquote study. And before you know it, you're stuck in a certain paradigm. Yeah, I mean, what about that? The sources. Like,
but you're right, though. I mean, you make a good point, and I think that there's a sense of discernment in there, and I think that there's also there's a certain intuition that you have to have, and as Charlie Kirk would say, wisdom. Yeah, you know, it's common sense and then wisdom, and unfortunately, not everybody has it.
Yeah, well, yeah, Charlie will go to the college campuses and he'll debate the kids there, and really make them look stupid. And I don't like the fact that people look stupid, but they're doing it themselves. Like they come up there to the microphone,
right? It's
with
voluntary.
Someone that is
it's
very
voluntary,
well educated, prepared, and they're obviously not. Right. You know what I mean? So,
right. And if you have an opinion, then you should be prepared to back that up. Yeah, 100%. That's my opinion.
Otherwise, you'll be the spotlight will go right, like you'll be exposed big time if it's just a talking point, or if you're programmed and you're thinking or speaking based on what somebody told you to speak. So
right.
So where did life start for you in Philly? You said, right? So what was childhood like, and how were you brought up? And
so I grew up in a suburb right outside of Philadelphia.
What town was it?
It's called Boothwyn.
Oh yeah.
Are you familiar?
They have the what do they call it? The farmers market.
Yeah.
Yeah, Boothwyn Farmers Market. My grandparents used to take me there as a kid. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's because it's so small.
Yeah.
So wow, what a small world. But yeah, so Boothwyn, Marcus Hook area. Yeah. Sort of back and forth, and just a typical lower income family. We were on government assistance. Yeah. There was not too many big dreamers in our family. Yeah. Somebody that achieved a large amount of success that wasn't something that our family got to experience.
Yeah. Were your parents Democrats, Republicans?
They were not. They were Republican.
Republicans. Okay.
They were.
Okay. All right. And so, as you were growing up, what was the first thing you really got into business wise?
So it started at a pretty young age, and unlike I would say, unlike a lot of people, when I grew up in that environment, it motivated me, and I looked around and said, "This is not what I want," versus allowing that to define me.
Yeah.
Using my environment to say, well, I'll never succeed because of this.
Yeah.
That became my motivation. So when I turned 18, I immediately started a business. I dropped out of high school.
Oh, did you?
Started a business.
Okay. Did you ever go back and get your GED?
In prison.
In prison?
In prison, I did. Just for fun, but it's not that I really needed it.
Yeah, yeah. When you're an entrepreneur, if you're off to the races, you're off to the races.
Exactly.
What was the first business you started?
So it was a multi-level marketing company called ITV Ventures.
Okay.
And I did very well.
Yeah.
Actually, I was one of the top recruiters in the whole company.
Yeah.
But there was no secret to my success. I just I downloaded what's called a genealogy list, which is just like a list of network marketers that were once upon a time in another company, and I just called them. Just made cold calls for 12 hours a day, and just made hundreds of phone calls.
Really?
And put in the work, put in the numbers, and
try to set up meetings with them. Is that
I would just say, hey, my name's Nate. I know you've been in network marketing before. I'm a network marketer. I found something really exciting. I would love to show you. If you have 30 seconds, I'd love to shoot you an email with more information.
Gotcha.
Really simple, really short.
And then how long did that last?
It lasted about 2 years, and then the FDA shut them down.
Okay.
They were shut down, and I was doing really well, so it was tragic.
Yeah, there's one thing about network marketing or working for any business that you're building that you don't own or have control of.
Yeah.
Because you're building this thing. I did this in the mortgage business. 2 different companies, and I was building something, but I didn't own it. The asset wasn't mine.
Right.
Now, the relationships can't be taken away from you. So that's one asset that you're building, but the company itself, or the idea, platform, whatever, I learned in the mortgage business. I came to like an awakening one day. I'm like, why am I building this? I have no asset to really sell, exit from, really have control over, and all this work is being put in, and it can be just taken from me. And that's kind of what happened to you, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And like you said, you could build something big, but you don't own the company, and then one day they could shut down or just take it away from you.
Yeah. So how did you recover from that? Like what?
Well, I just started over. So I was like, okay, what now? And so that's always been my mentality.
Yeah.
I'm never the victim. It's just like, okay, something bad just happened. Like, what do I do? Like, how do I pivot and where do I go from here? So I got into affiliate marketing, and SEO.
Okay. Gotcha.
And did quite well, actually. So I marketed a supplement. I got into fitness and bodybuilding, and I learned about affiliate marketing. And I thought, okay, if I get amazing results from this supplement, I can take pictures every day, document my progress, like comprehensively on a blog with photos, because I'm doing it anyway, right? I'm already working out. And then after 30 days, the transformation was crazy. Got like 300,000 views on YouTube. The founder of the company reached out and said, hey, we'd like you to lead the whole marketing department. We love what you did. And so I ended up being co-founder of the company about a year later.
What kind of supplement was it?
It was Andro Factory. So it was a pro-hormone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a DHEA, 4 DHEA, 5 DHEA.
Before that all came, the peptides all became mainstream and all that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This was like a while ago, like before it really took off.
Yeah. And then what happened with that? Did it eventually
that got shut down.
Okay.
So I moved on to another company.
Okay.
I said, hey, here's what I did for this company.
Right.
I can do this for
So
you.
you had experience. So the asset that you had was not the company itself, but you had experience, you had the relationships, and that experience led you to be feeling confident with whatever the next thing was, right?
Yeah, one thing just sort of
Yeah.
pivoted me into the next thing.
Yeah.
But the original thing was just pure hunger. It was just pure drive.
Now, coming from the family that you did, with the level of economic level that they were in, can you talk about your experience with financial literacy and handling money and doing the right thing with money? And
it took a long time.
Yeah. Were you blowing money on things? And
I was.
Yeah.
And so I achieved a very large amount of success in my early 20s and was making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And even then, it would never last.
Right.
If I made 30 grand in a month, I would find a way to spend it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had experiences and I traveled the world and had epic vacations.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you took all
away.
that money and just lived off a lifestyle that like you were there already at that time, and just stacked money and then learn how to invest early. Like,
I know.
Just
Right.
I think about that for myself, man. Like,
You know, there's
Yeah.
there's this one thought that stands out to me. It's just like I had a thought,
Yeah.
and I never forgot that thought when I was in my like 25, 26, and it was, I was like, I'm never gonna live a normal life. This money is just always gonna come to me.
Yeah.
And it was the dumbest thought I ever had.
Right.
It's the dumbest thought I ever had.
Yeah, but I think there's something to that of understanding that money is abundant and it's always out there and that it's going to always flow. It might be some ebbs and flows, but I think there's something to that too that could be a good thing.
There's a balance. You got to have a balance between abundance mentality and then being smart and not blowing all your money.
100%. All right, so how did you end up in Vegas?
So I was about 27, 28 and doing incredibly well. And, you know, I was jacked and making lots of money. And I was like, all right, I could go anywhere. Why am I here in this small booth? I was still in Booth Win. I'm like, why am I here at this point?
You got too big for the town.
Yeah. I was working from my computer.
Yep.
So I was like, I could go anywhere. And then I realized Nevada had no income tax. And so just the money saving on the income tax, I would be able to live for free.
Yeah.
So I figured, why not
Did you have any friends in Vegas at the time?
No, none at all.
So you go out to Vegas. Where did you stay? Did you get an apartment, condo?
I went straight to the Meridian condominiums. Okay. It was basically on the Strip.
Okay,
It was
gotcha.
1 block from the Strip.
So you're there, okay? And I was in San Diego this week.
And I bought an I-8 too.
Oh, did you?
So I bought an I-8 and a place on the Las Vegas Strip.
Right,
like,
but you're by
overnight.
yourself.
Yeah, by
at the
myself.
time, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in San Diego this week, right? And we hung out at an event, and you were here and hung out with you a little bit. But there's a lot of time where my Kins isn't here, my co-host. She couldn't make it this trip, and some other people I usually hang out. Like, I was by myself a lot, but I just made the best of it. But it's still, there's this thing where I couldn't enjoy the city as much as I wanted to when I'm by myself. It's a weird thing. So when you were in Vegas, you didn't really have anybody. So how did you start connecting with people, like, and making friends? Like, what was it like being by yourself, having a nice place, nice car?
Yeah. So I actually got into the dating industry.
Okay.
When I moved out to Vegas.
Okay.
And people were making a lot of money. Guys were taking other guys out to the bars and the clubs.
Like the promoters and stuff?
Yeah, no, but dating coaches.
Oh, okay.
So they would actually teach them how to communicate and how to go out and actually meet women.
Oh, wow.
And then they would bring them out to the bar. They would demonstrate, and then they would have the students do it. And it was live
that was a
coaching.
thing.
Yeah, it was live coaching, and they were getting about $3,500 a student.
What?
Like just talking to girls, like going out to the club.
And then did you have to get trained for that, or did you feel already you were good?
I am a little bit of both.
Yeah.
There were guys out here that were doing it professionally and doing really, really well.
Yeah.
So I was learning not only what they were doing that I wasn't doing, but also how to teach.
Yeah.
Because you could be good with women, but if you don't know how to teach it or how to break it down for a guy that doesn't, then you're not going to get your students' results.
Right. And so, number one, marketing that, I want to know how you marketed that. Like, how did you get students?
So we blew up very quickly.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things.
You started it, or you went to work for someone that already had it?
No, I started it right away.
Oh, you started it.
So
okay.
I took I was meeting these guys that were already doing it, that were considered the best in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, they make millions of dollars a year doing this. And I was I don't want to sound arrogant.
No.
But I thought I was better than them.
Okay. Okay.
I was like, okay,
honest.
These are guys that I was looking up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
Just
like,
being honest.
I'm better than these guys are. So I thought, why not start my own? Why not start my own and compete against them?
And then how were they marketing? Not how did you do it, but how were they marketing it?
I don't know how they
know if they told you
started,
that.
but
Yeah.
they've been around for like more than 10 years.
Okay.
And so they're huge.
So they had a presence. Okay.
Yeah, people just know them.
Okay. And then how did you decide when you went on your own? Like, how did you market it?
Yeah, it really was word of mouth, and then a lot of social engineering.
Yeah.
So we managed to talk our way into a big seminar with a lot of people that were experts in that
But
field.
you're still by yourself at this time?
I had
like,
two.
did you-
I had two people. I had 3 coaches working for me.
Okay.
Three other guys
No, but
were-
I mean, like, you didn't have a lot of friends at the time in Vegas, right?
No.
So you were on your own, and how did you meet these 3 coaches that were working for you?
Yeah, I met them by then meeting the other guys that I
Okay.
was first talking to when I came out, and they were just like mutual friends or associates.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
they saw what I was doing when I went out, and I guess they agree with my assessment of myself.
Yeah.
and decided they wanted to come coach for me instead.
Okay. And then marketing it. How did you market it?
Yeah, so it was just started off word of mouth, but a lot of social engineering, reaching out on social media. Eventually, we found our way into a big seminar with a lot of experts that have been around a long time that have a lot of notoriety.
What kind of seminar?
It was Social Hacker Summit.
Okay.
2020 or something. I forget the exact year.
Yeah.
Social Hacker Summit, and we hacked our way in, and I made a joke to the audience. I said, how many of you guys know who we are? And no one raised their hand. I said, that's my point. So we started like a week ago, and we're standing here on stage talking to you guys.
How did you do that?
I don't remember exactly how we did it, but it's just a lot of.
But you got not just into the event; you got on stage.
Yeah, we were on stage. We were one of the speakers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you don't remember how you did it?
No, we were we started about a week ago.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then, so did you have a call to action from stage?
Yeah, we did. So we brought some guys out, and then what we did is we actually displayed a video, right? So I talked my way into the Billboard Awards. I sat behind Drake, and we were sitting with all the Grammy winners, and we were not nobody. We were just random people, but we talked our way in, and we actually documented every step of the process of how we talked our way into it. So we played that for the audience, and we broke it down, and we broke down exactly what we said, why we said
version.
it.
How did you do that?
A lot of name dropping.
Okay.
Confidence.
Yeah. Just acting as if.
Acting as if.
Yeah, so-and-so told me
thing.
to come talk to you and whatever. And
yeah. We've had points where we were going into really sensitive areas backstage, and there were security guards looking at us, and you could see in the video, they almost stop us. But we just walk past them, such confidence, we don't even glance in their direction.
Okay.
And eventually it's like they approach and then they just back
But you
off.
didn't even have any passes on or anything.
No.
And you just went.
We're all in suits. We all looked super sharp. We had 2 guys with cameras as our photographers. I had a bodyguard.
Did you ever get stopped when you tried to do that?
A couple times.
Yeah.
So I was with a guy who was a bodyguard.
Okay.
And he had a badge, and he was an ex-FBI. He was ex-FBI.
Okay.
And one of the women tried to stop me, and she put her arm out, right? And he said, "Hey, don't touch my client." And she immediately pulled her arm away, and I walked past her.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind at the time?
It was sick. I was
Were
just
you nervous and had any fear at all, or no? You just
I did, but I didn't show it.
Yeah.
I looked like super entitled. I just looked super entitled, like almost disgusted by her.
Yeah.
The fact that she would try to touch me or try to stop me.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I love this stuff.
Yeah.
I think I've done this stuff before, but not at the Grammys. But I've done it at other places where I just I acted like I belong there. You know?
And so we just broke that down.
More even than the security that was hired to stand at that location and that post. This is my thing. This is my place, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Confidence is a funny thing, man. Like if you are confident and convicted in whatever you're doing, people will back off. And it's a very attractive thing too. People will want to be around you. There's probably people when you did that were like, dude, I want to be in that entourage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we actually pulled up, I had an I-8 at the time, so that also helped with the image, obviously.
Yeah.
But when we pulled up, we were nobodies, right? But people were coming up and asking for our autographs and asking for pictures. Swear to God, I don't know who they thought we were.
Right.
But they were coming up. Can we get a picture with you guys?
Yeah. Confidence is attractive, man. And then when you create this presence, you know, people want to be in it, and then later on they'll figure it out if it's somebody famous or not. But they don't want to miss that opportunity to get that picture or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
crazy.
crazy.
I do it in the club all the time. I get into the DJ booth every night.
Yeah,
and I never pay.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. All right, so then you're in Vegas doing your thing, and then what happened with that business? Did it?
So COVID.
Okay, gotcha.
That really messed things up.
Okay, so you were working with these guys, most of them local guys.
Yeah, they were all local guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just were doing what you would do anyway. You were going out to the club, talking to girls and stuff like that anyway.
Right, and I was making 12 grand in a weekend.
Did you have a camera guy with you when you were doing those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we always got all hidden camera, everything hidden camera. We would blur the faces, obviously, for the legality
And
reasons,
somebody would pay you $3,500, give or take, whatever at the time. And then that would be for one time out?
Yeah, and we'd have 3 guys per boot camp. So we're making 10 grand in a boot camp, 10 grand in a weekend.
Okay, so it's the whole weekend. You go out the whole weekend, pool parties, all that kind of stuff.
4 hours Friday night, 4 hours Saturday night, 4 hours Sunday night. So
did you ever have
10 grand, 10 hours?
Did you ever have a time where you were demonstrating and you were going up to some girls or whatever and got shot down?
Oh, all the time.
And then you would just show them how to respond to that.
Correct,
right?
all the time, because it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And women will shoot you down even if they are attracted to you, just because you're attractive.
Right, and so you show them how to dust it off.
Right.
and move on. Next thing.
Correct.
Next up. You know, my
Right.
grandmother or grandfather used to tell me. I don't know if I should be saying this, but he used to tell me, and I was probably 15. I remember him telling me this. Dude, it's a numbers game. Everything's a numbers game. Just go up. Hey, you want a date? Want a date? Want a date? Want a date?
Right.
This is how he said
Right.
it. Want a date? Want a date? And then you'd get turned down 9, and the 10th one say, yeah, but if you quit, you won't get to the one that says yes.
Right. Right.
Same thing. And you're
Yeah.
teaching them that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of guys will get turned down, and then it hits their ego, it hits their confidence, and then they're no good going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're doing if you're getting 1 out of 10 girls' phone numbers, you're doing really well.
All right. So,
Doing really well.
so COVID happens, and then you're like, oh man. So this is another thing. It's kind of like the network marketing thing going whack. What did you do then? Like,
Yeah. Well, not shortly after January 6th happened.
yeah.
You know, and that's
right.
when I then eventually got locked up. And
Yeah, but so you had another business though at the time, January 6th, right?
yes, I was doing marketing.
Okay.
I mean, so I was doing a combination of that plus
Okay.
I still had marketing businesses on the side, and I had a team of virtual assistants.
Okay.
So I was helping people doing BPO stuff like
Okay.
that.
All right. So then you go and get wrapped up in January 6th. Okay. So the election happened 2020, right? Was it 2020 the election? No, or 19?
Yeah, 2019.
2019.
But then January
And
2020
then
is when
January
it all went
2020 is
down.
when it all went down.
Yeah.
So you leading up to this, take us through when somebody had the idea to go to Washington, D.C. for that.
Yeah, I mean, so I was just doing what I do and putting in long hours and working really long in my business.
Yeah.
And obviously keeping up with all the headlines like everybody else
Right.
about the election, all discrepancies and questions that people had. And there was a guy named Ronald Sandlin that I've been wanting to connect with.
Yeah.
He did what I did, and he was a marketer, and he was throwing big mansion parties in Vegas and
Yeah.
living a great lifestyle. So he was someone I wanted to network with.
Yeah.
And I happened to notice that he put on Facebook, "Hey, who's going to the rally in DC?" So I said, "All right, this is a good time to, to link
Connect.
up with him and
Yeah.
take off from work, take off from work, get away from work for a couple days."
Yeah.
We brought our computers so that after the rally we would maybe sit down, talk business afterwards.
Right.
None of us ever anticipated what happening.
When you thought about going there, you were going to connect with him, and you're like, okay, this is an opportunity, and it's going to be cool. It's going to be a rally, whatever. Thinking about
Exactly.
one of the Trump rallies, right?
Yeah.
Thinking it's going to be something like that.
Right.
People high-fiving and chanting, whatever.
Yeah.
What is that? What you kind of thought it was going to be?
Yes, but then see now he's also a content creator.
Okay.
So we got to the point where like, okay, let's turn this into a documentary, almost like a movie.
Okay, so you're communicating with him before this about
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
So now we're like, all right, let's turn this into a movie.
Yeah.
So my brain, because I'm a marketer.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I market this? So I bought all kinds of gear. Ronnie, I call him Ronnie.
Yeah.
Bought all kinds of gear as well. So I had a skull mask. I had a helmet, and I had something to protect myself in case.
But why? So why did you think that you were going to need that going into it versus just wearing a MAGA hat, for example?
Well, we wanted to market it.
Okay.
We wanted to get eyeballs.
Okay,
We knew
so
that
you wanted
posting that content was going to get people tuning
Okay.
in to our live streams.
Okay, gotcha.
We wanted people watching.
Gotcha. But I
Yeah.
mean, was there an anticipation that it was going to be a problem?
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
There was that fear for sure.
Okay.
That this is Washington, D.C. This is very
Okay.
liberal city.
But you were thinking that it was going to come from the opposition side. I hate to say the opposite,
Yes.
but the other side.
counter
Counter-protesters,
protesters. Yeah.
not necessarily the cops or National Guard who
No.
Nancy
It
Pelosi
wasn't
turned
law
down.
enforcement. We were
anything.
concerned about
Yeah.
Antifa and Black Lives Matter.
Okay, gotcha.
That was our
Okay,
concern.
all right, that makes sense. Yeah,
Going
yeah.
after Trump. You've seen it all the time.
Yeah.
In the months leading up to it, people getting followed and beat up and punched in the
Right.
face because they're Trump supporters.
But this was a content play. Like this is
It,
like
it was
a,
both. So it was was
Yeah.
like there was a little bit of concern, but it was it was very much clout and content.
right. Right.
And I called myself Dr. Death. I put hashtag Dr. Death with a little skull mask.
Okay.
And it was COVID at the time too.
Oh, that's right.
So it was
yeah.
also it doubled as a COVID mask.
Gotcha. Okay, so you get there. All right, January 6th, you get to the Capitol, right in where the mall is and all that. Take us through it, man. Like,
Yeah, so it's just, again, we're just filming the whole time. We've got Nikons, we've got boom mics, we've got GoPros.
Yeah.
I actually have a setup.
you still have the content from it?
Yeah, we
Okay.
do. Well,
Did it
some
get,
of
I didn't
it.
know if it got confiscated.
Some of it. I think the FBI has some of it. I'm not quite sure on the status of it,
Okay.
but we got a lot of content.
Yeah.
And that was the goal, was just to film and to just try to catch as much action on film as possible.
Right. Right. Did you have the intention to do some outrageous stuff though to get content? Like you wanted to get attention.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So yeah, we were definitely saying things, you know, shouting to the crowd and stuff, and just showing off. You know, when you hit that record button,
right,
people change and they show off for the camera.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, how long were you there until you went up the steps?
Yeah. So it was probably about an hour later before Trump finally got to speak. Maybe a couple of hours before Trump finally spoke, and then people started heading in that direction.
And what do you mean he spoke, for the audience that doesn't know about this?
Yeah, so on January 6th, there was a whole event and a whole series of speakers, and then eventually Donald Trump got to speak as the last speaker, and he told people to patriotically march to the Capitol. That's all he said.
Where was he at this time? Where were these speakers? At the Capitol?
Just on a stage.
At the Capitol? Right where the mall was?
Yeah, just somewhere in the middle of D.C.
Okay, so he basically was holding the Trump rally like he just did leading up to the election.
Correct.
But you know, at the mall area right there. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
gotcha. So then Trump was going to speak, and he did?
Yeah, so he eventually gave a speech and told people to head towards the Capitol. And so with our cameras, that's exactly what we did too.
Okay.
We figured if anything is going to happen, it's going to be up in the Capitol area.
Right, right. And you wanted to capture it.
We wanted to be where the action was.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And so then you go to the Capitol steps, and what happens?
So we end up scaling a couple walls. They make it so easy.
Yeah.
You know, it was the most incredible thing. It's like certain angles, it just shows people climbing up walls, but really it was quite an operation.
Yeah.
And it was a man, he probably looked like Mr. Rogers, some old, in his 50s, 60s, and he's just handing out these little bike racks, you know, and it's a whole operation, right? And people are just passing them down, and people are just climbing.
Who were those people? Who facilitated that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean,
who do you think?
We can only speculate.
Who do you think?
It could be inside. I mean, it could be somebody on the inside.
Like what side?
It
Inside
could be
what
FBI.
side?
I mean, it could be
You mean
FBI.
that,
It could be some kind of law enforcement agency, if not FBI.
Okay, gotcha. So then you go over the walls, and then you get up to the Capitol doors.
And we get up to the Capitol doors, and doors are wide open.
How many are with you?
So it's me, Ronald Salin, and then there's actually a third guy named Josiah Colt.
Okay. And
we're a group of 3 guys.
Okay. And was one of them the one that had that buffalo?
I didn't see him that day.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No.
All right. So anyway.
Yes. But so yeah, we ended up getting to the front door, and the doors in our case was wide open.
Okay.
Wide open. People were just pouring in. The crowd's just pouring in.
Right.
You know, young, old ladies, you know, just people walking through the door.
Right.
So we're like, all right, let's follow them inside with our cameras.
Yeah.
Eventually that would become a felony. By walking in that door, that's a felony.
Oh, okay.
But in that moment, you don't think that. You just see everyone going in.
Unless it's a sanctioned tour or something. But
right.
that door was, you know, not where you would tour.
Right.
Okay.
By my mere presence disrupted the electoral college count, which became obstruction of Congress.
Gotcha. Okay.
A felony.
So you get in, and then how did you know where to go? You're just wandering around?
Yeah, we're really just following the crowd.
Okay.
We don't know. I've never been in the Capitol, or at least it's been a long time. So we're just walking down a big hallway.
Yeah.
And then we see there's a scuffle by a door, and there's cops guarding a door, and then there's the protesters on the other side trying to get through the door. Mm-hmm. So there's like this tug of war against the doorway.
And you're already inside.
Yeah.
Behind the police officers or whatever at the time. With that, did at any point did you feel like scared of, wait, maybe I'm doing something wrong, or there's going to be something bad happen here? Or?
My justification was that as long as I have a camera and I'm recording, then I'm just, you know, I'm recording it and I'm distanced from it.
Okay, gotcha. But was there any fear at all for safety?
No.
Okay.
I mean, not from other people in the crowd.
Yeah. Okay. And then you did you go in the Senate chamber too, or where did you go?
We did.
Tell me where you went. Like what happened?
Yeah. So we just kind of kept walking, really with no real direction. Of course, the government will totally deny that. You know, they've totally denied that. But I have no reason to lie, especially now.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've said in paperwork that we knew exactly where we were going.
Right.
But in reality, we were just
wandering around.
We were just wandering around.
Yeah.
But we did make our way directly to the Senate. We went straight there.
Okay. And then you're in there in the Senate chamber, and what were you doing in there? Well,
there was a big scuffle, and that was like the second big mistake of the day, because there were I guess some kind of officers or somebody that worked in the Capitol building. I like to say cops, but they were in suits.
Okay.
So some sort of security was closing the door, and then there was a big match against them to open the door.
Okay. And at any point, did you think you were doing something wrong? Like, did it go through your mind besides?
After that happened, yeah.
Okay.
After, because there was a little shoving match.
Okay.
I shoved somebody who then
Gotcha.
fell into a cop. I never directly touched a cop.
Okay. Gotcha. And then you went into the chamber. How long did you stay in that chamber?
Like 5 minutes.
Okay. And then you headed out?
Yeah,
that?
and then I left.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, but Josiah Colt, the guy that I went with, he ended up climbing down the balcony.
Okay.
So he was hanging by one arm. You've probably seen that photo everywhere.
Yeah. Did he fall?
No, he landed on his feet.
Okay. So he goes in there, then you guys head out. All right. After
And he sits in Nancy Pelosi's seat.
Okay.
And he says, "This is my chair now," and slams her gavel.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember seeing the video and pictures of that.
And then I said a couple of really bad things on camera.
Okay. Gotcha. Do you want to share that? or
I
no?
said, "Take laptops, paperwork."
Oh, okay.
We were looking for evidence.
And then they had evidence of you saying that.
Yeah, I
You
said
guys
it
were
right
recording.
on
Yeah.
video.
All right. And then you leave. And then what did you do the rest of the day?
I went straight home.
Okay. Back to Vegas or just
Yeah,
where you
back
were
to
staying?
Vegas.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
We all panicked. We all went straight into panic
what
mode.
was going through your mind?
We were all just panicking because we all linked back up and we checked our phones and we see on the timeline a photo of him hanging by one arm from the balcony.
On the news?
Yeah, that was shared like already shared like 10,000 times.
Oh, no.
And we were like, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
we're in trouble."
Yeah. And then so you go back home. And then what happens is like, how long did till they contact you?
Yeah, it was probably about 7 to 10 days later.
So that whole week was terrible for you, probably.
No, actually,
Yeah,
I
you
just
thinking-
I just somehow managed to just disassociate with it from it and just sort of forgot about it. I just went right back to work, pretended like it never happened.
Gotcha. And then who contacts you?
Yeah, the FBI shows up at my door, and the first thing they said is, "You know what this is about, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I have an idea."
And then they take you to the field office.
Yeah, they take me, they interrogate me.
Holy cow!
I just totally deny it.
And
Never went inside.
What was going through your head? Like,
Just trying to figure out how to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, I knew.
yeah, you knew
wasn't
you
going
recorded
to.
everything.
Yeah,
Right? Like that's got to be in the back of your head. Like they're gonna find that I recorded it. I mean,
I didn't know what they knew at the time.
right.
So I just, but in hindsight, I probably should have just shut my mouth and pled the fifth.
Yep.
But I just said, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I never went inside."
Okay. And did you have a lawyer at the time?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And then when did you finally have a lawyer?
It was probably just a couple days later. They assigned me a public defender.
They let you out after that interrogation, or they put you?
Oh no, I went straight to the Las Vegas County Jail.
Okay. Spent how much time there?
24 hours.
Okay.
I was out the following morning, but really, out of those 3 years, that was the worst night of those 3 years.
Why? What was so bad?
It's just because there's no bed. It's just a metal bench. You know, it's like I slept on my pillow was a roll of toilet paper,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
anyone in that situation I'm sure can relate to.
And then,
that's all I
they
had.
let you out free after that for a little while?
No, the next morning we were then transported to Pahrump County Federal Facility.
Okay. And eventually moved to DC.
And then we went to Grady County, Oklahoma, and then we went to Pennsylvania, and then eventually to DC.
And so they're flying you, you're in cuffs.
Yeah, Con Air.
And you had no idea how long you were going to be locked up, how long this was going to last or anything. So this is going through your head now.
Yeah.
When did you start to switch to this attitude of, I'm going to make the best of this situation? Because you remember the story you told me where you were laying back with your hands up.
Yeah, that's a great question because I did in the beginning stress a lot.
Yeah.
I would say it was probably towards once I got to DC.
Okay.
Although, I mean, I'm not going to lie, it was a very stressful moment because I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I hadn't taken any plea deal at the time.
Right.
You know, so all that uncertainty was really difficult.
Yeah. And then so you're in DC prison, federal prison. They're locking you up for 23 hours a day in a cell?
Yeah, in the beginning.
Okay.
And then eventually it became 22 hours a day and then 20 hours out of the cell
Okay.
as COVID started to become less and less strict.
That's why they tied you up for so long during COVID.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a lockdown inside of a lockdown,
Okay.
basically.
And then when you got out, you're hanging around other criminals,
Yeah.
right?
Well, in the DC jail, it's all January 6ers.
Oh, it was. Okay.
All of us, yeah.
And so what was that like hanging out with everybody when you're out? Like,
It was
you guys
great.
talking
It was
about?
like very much like a family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all shared the patriotism. We all sang the national anthem
Okay.
at 9 p.m. every night.
And for 2 years you were there?
A year and a half.
Oh, year and a half. You
Exactly a year and a half.
were there. Okay. So when you went to court, you didn't go to trial. You plead.
I
What
took
were
a
you
plea
facing?
deal. Yeah, I was facing, in the plea deal, I was facing 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
And my lawyer's like, look, you take this or you go in front of a DC jury. And we know
Okay.
how that's going to work out.
Gotcha.
And you're gonna do 7. He said, so you better just take the plea deal.
And did you have to give up something or information to get the deal?
No. It was just, I had to go on I had to stay on home incarceration for almost 12 months.
Okay.
Yeah, they just wanted me to take it to apply pressure,
Yeah.
I guess, to other people to plea out to the same charge.
Okay.
That was really what it was, I think.
And did you ever have this victim mentality? Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Or did you ever come to, like, when you're by yourself for a long period of time, you got a lot of retrospect that happens, a lot of assessment that happens. Was there a time where you just kind of owned to that you shouldn't have done some of the things? Like, take us through that thought process.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I realized that I got a little bit carried away, but at the same time, sometimes the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
And if the government's stealing an election and installing a president, not electing a president,
Yeah. Yeah.
then what does any patriotic American
Yeah,
do?
man. I mean,
I can't beat myself up for it either.
Yeah, if you look back at the Revolutionary War,
Right.
there were people that just like that, and they had enough. And who's going to stand up and when something's going wrong? There's laws in place, but if the laws aren't being respected on the back end by the hidden people,
Right.
yeah, I mean, there's a ton of ways to look at this. Other people would look at it as, I know you broke the law, you shouldn't have been in there, you know that, this and that, but some people needed to do something, I guess, if they felt
Right.
that certain way.
I think the most important
Yeah.
thing when you assess things like that is what's the intent.
Right.
Is the action taken in good faith?
Yeah.
It's not a home invasion where I'm trying to, steal from another person. This is a moment in history where we feel like there might have been some wrongdoing in the election.
Well, now you got the election, whatever happened with the election, but then you have Doge going in and finding all this fraud, waste, and abuse. It's undeniable. And people they know about it and they're letting it happen, that are elected officials. And we're paying tax money and we're seeing that our tax money is not being well cared for. And now you see all that and you're like, well, what is supposed to happen? Like, how does it get stopped if people don't stand up?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, man,
Sometimes you have to make yourself into the martyr.
Yeah,
And Trump's done that. Elon's done that.
yeah,
We've done that.
yeah. All right, so then you get out and you go back to your life. And what did you start to do to make money and be able to care for yourself again?
Yeah, so I got out, but it was on home incarceration. So I had freedom, but not quite.
Yeah.
So I did immediately get back to work, and because I couldn't leave the house at all, I had nothing but time to just work and work and work, and I was putting in so much time.
Yeah,
Like 16 hours a day,
so
every single day.
You had to use Instacart to get food to your house
Yep.
and that kind of stuff. Delivery,
Exactly.
all
I
that.
couldn't even take out the trash.
Oh, you couldn't even leave the house
Could
on
not
your
leave it.
yard.
To get the mail, to take out
anything.
the trash, nothing.
Wow. What, you had a monitor on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so what kind of business did you go back into? Same thing?
So same thing.
Okay.
I went right back into outsource. I had right back into outsourcing and BPO, and then AI started to become a little bit prevalent too.
Yeah.
So I started to incorporate some AI into my business.
What's the biggest lesson you learned from all this?
Life happens for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset, but it's a mindset that works for you because in any challenge, if you can learn to see the good in it, then it becomes a positive. So when I was in prison, I learned to eventually accept it because I realized that I didn't have any external distractions, friends or family or cell phones or social media.
Yeah.
I had nothing but me and my mind,
Yeah.
me, my thoughts, my imagination,
Yeah.
my mindset.
And what came from that?
A lot has come from that, and a lot of strength has come from that, and also self-awareness,
Yeah.
which I think is the most important thing. People go through life not quite knowing what they want.
Right.
And if you don't know what you want, how do you know how to act and what to do?
Yeah. So what's your mission now? Now that you know what you identify what you want, right?
Well, we're building an app, an AI-powered app, a life management system is what we're calling it. So it's an AI that actually learns everything about you as who you are as a person so that it helps you to take actions that are in alignment with what you want. It essentially gets you from where you are to where you want to be.
all the micro decisions that lead to the big results that we get, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I reverse engineered the process that I went through and learning and discovering myself. And we're teaching an AI to do that so that it can learn people on an intimate level and then basically control every aspect of their life.
All right, man. Finally, I appreciate you being here, by the way, and coming to town in San Diego. Obviously, you're not from here, and I appreciate you coming into town for that one podcast. You got pardoned, right? So take us through that. Prior to that, and did you know, like, did you have an idea that you could be pardoned while you were in prison?
So I was actually, I was on supervised release at the time.
But I mean, when you're in prison, did it go through your mind that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For all 4 of those years, we were hoping not only for Trump's return, but then to get pardoned.
Okay. Gotcha. See, this is the thing. If somebody commits murder, shoplifts, assaults somebody, everybody pretty much is on the side of, yeah, that person's got to pay.
Right.
In this scenario, you have half the people, maybe it's not half, but some people saying, yeah, they're criminals. They're criminals. You got to put them away. They got to, then you have the other half where it's like, no, this is a patriot. So it's different. It's a totally different animal than a normal criminal.
Yeah, you could say the guys that participated in Boston Tea Party were criminals.
Yeah, exactly.
You could call them criminals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it all depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. So, all right. So then you start getting serious information that you may be pardoned. Take us through the thought process that you were going through when you started hearing that. And
yeah, it was just a matter of, it was just, the clock was ticking.
Yeah.
And all we could do was hope that Trump would be reelected. So eventually I ended up working for America PAC, and I was canvassing door to door here in Nevada.
Helping your cause.
Helping my cause, yeah.
Okay. And so then take us through when you got pardoned.
Well, Trump ended up winning Nevada.
Yep.
Due to all the hard work and, of course, as we all know, in a landslide victory. So to me in that moment, I knew that my pardon was coming.
Yeah.
Trump is a man of his word. He's probably one of the only presidents that's really just followed through on absolutely everything. Promises made, promises kept, that whole campaign.
Yep.
And so I knew he was going to do it. And sure enough, he did exactly what he said he was going to do.
And what was it like to hear the news?
It was great.
How was it delivered to you?
Yeah, it was delivered to me first through my buddy Ronald Sandlin, who was actually in D.C. at the time, and got word. And then that same day, about an hour later, my probation officer called me and said, well, I never had to make one of these calls before, but your case is done.
And what went through your mind, man? How did you feel? What did you do that day?
I just felt great. I was just like such a relief
that
everything was done.
Yeah.
That I didn't have to look over my shoulders anymore. Yeah. I could get a firearm again to protect myself.
Yeah.
All the things that most people should be able to do. And
so from this point forward, you got your AI stuff that you're doing, but going forward with this experience, what's the plans and the vision for you to I don't know if leverage is the right word or not, but leverage the experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think a book's coming for sure that would tell the story more in depth and exactly how I use my time in there to become a stronger person.
Yeah.
To be able to go from solitary to an event like Secret Knock in a relatively short amount of time takes a certain kind of mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think there's a chance that you could talk to liberals and get on some kind of common ground with them and help them to understand where you're coming from?
I mean, I'm open to it, but obviously that's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And they have to first stop yelling and screaming first.
Yeah. So I got to tell you this. So I'm intentionally, I know who's a liberal and who's not a lot of times at these events. So I'm intentionally trying to create an environment where people can see common ground. So I was looking for people to introduce you to at times that I knew thought differently than you, but not introduce you guys on those terms, but on common ground. Right. So that you could establish a line of communication with each other. Because I know for a fact that communication leads to affinity, and communication and affinity lead to agreement.
Yeah.
And that combination, as you increase those three things, any one of those things, if you increase communication, affinity and reality and agreement grow. So I was intentionally, and I look to do this because I think there's ways that you can do these things, but if people start on uncommon ground, the communication never happens. Right. And that's not good. So, man, I appreciate your time here, coming out to San Diego, hanging out with you at the event was awesome. Where can people go deeper with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram at It's Vegas Nate. That's ITS Vegas Nate.
Okay, awesome. Guys, go check Vegas Nate out. Thanks for your time, bro. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Make sure you subscribe to that one. Thanks for being here, whether you're listening or watching. We appreciate you consuming this content. Shout out to Kins. We miss her. She's not here in San Diego with us this time, but she'll be back on our next tour stop. Take this time right now to go subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Do not add time to the equation because you'll forget. We want you to keep coming back and see and listen to the amazing guests that we have who are that one in their space. And until next time, it's your boy C-Rock, Vegas Nate signing off. Be that one.